Hi, good morning YouTube. So I've been uploading videos every now and then, but one of the videos that I don't really upload much of is when I brew beer. So the process of brewing beer is very time consuming. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks to have a beer in your glass from when you do the process. Now the process of brewing the beer itself, I can take about 4 hours and still be like kind of halfway done. So that's kind of why I haven't really been filming anything. So I decided today I'm going to film, and what I've done so far is I've cleaned these two kettles. I filled this one up with water and I connected the lines, connected the immersion chiller or heat exchanger, and now we're going to get ready to put water into this mash tun. And after the water's been put in here, we're going to put our grains. So I think I started about 2 hours ago or so. So I broke out all the equipment and I've been prepping stuff. I got to put the neoprene jacket on here. So I've been milling the grains. One of the things that happened is I had a little bit of a grain spill, and I used this grain mill. And then another reason why I don't really film, because there's a lot of ambient noise, a lot of sirens. There's no sirens now, but cars passing by, airplanes, trains, sirens, gunshots, no gunshots, music. Sometimes people pass by, they have music, and that'll definitely kill the YouTube vibe. But yeah, so right now I'm waiting for the water to heat up. I gotta get this up to 184, approximately 184. So when the water transfers over to the mash tun, it will be at equilibrium at 154. Now, is that gonna be, see what I mean? Now, transferring the water with the grains into the mash tun will cause a temperature drop due to ambient. So, ambient delta T. I have to time my dialogue or monologue. The heat exchanger here is going to mitigate the temperature loss. Temperature loss will result in having a dry character on the beer. Now we're brewing an American brown ale using Glacier and Cascade hops. And I really want to keep the mouthfeel kind of not on the dry side at all. More of like a heavier side. It's going to be a 6.0 ABV approximately. And it's going to be a good cold weather beer. Unfortunately, the weather is no longer cold, because we live in California, and I'm gonna do the best I can to film as much content as possible. Now, if you guys kind of like what if you guys like what I upload, be sure to hit subscribe, be one of my YouTube subscribers, leave some comments. If there's any suggestions for methods or beer recipes you would like me to try. By the way, I'm filming on my iPhone, and I'm gonna be going from the camera to myself, and it's distracting, I know. Okay, we have roosters now. So now we've connected the pump and the lines with the heat exchanger in place, and we're slowly transferring water over to the hot from the hot liquor tank to the mash tun. Now the mash tun has perforated bottom, which we call a false bottom. That's going to hold the grains separated from the wort. Now this is taking a little bit longer than I expected because the heat exchanger does do a pressure drop, and just like I said, there's noise from airplanes. Just can't catch a break. I also don't have a tripod, so we're gonna have to just use our imaginations. Whoa. So anyways, hot liquor tank, mash tun. Mash tun, grains will go inside. The grains that are in that bucket will go in here. Try to do this with one hand. Cowboy stance. Trust me, it was not my idea to get the chickens. So from this moment, after I submerge all the grains in with the water, make sure there's no voids of dryness, aka dough balls, break everything up. I'm gonna set a timer for approximately 45 minutes. Now in the time, another helicopter, whatever, I'm talking over it. In the time of mash rest, if there is to be a temperature drop, I will activate the recirculation using a heat exchanger to make sure the temperature does not go beyond below 154. After 45 minutes at 154, then I will start a recirculation to compact the mash bed down, create a filter bed, and then transfer the wort with no grains from this kettle to the boil kettle. From the boil kettle, it will be boiling for 60 minutes in a schedule of adding hops accordingly per recipe. So the mash temps began to drop. We had began at 153 and now it's at 142. Within 15 minutes, that's too much. So it's definitely a temperature loss due to ambient. So what I did is I hooked up the inline heat exchanger. Now we're pulling suction from the bottom of the kettle, which has the mash, through the pump, up through the bottom of the coil. Now it should be counterflow. I understand thermal fluid mechanics, and the ideal circulation of this is from the top to bottom because the heat rises through the top. You want to get the most heat. Anyways, all I gotta do is bring up the delta T, and that's at 162, but it's still not enough to bring the temps up as I need. So I'm going to hook up the gas and have this start pumping. Color looks pretty light. It's a brown ale. It's gonna be pretty cool. So the temperatures are beginning to slowly creep up. A couple of seconds ago it was at 138. Now we're approaching at 144. We still got to get to 154. 10 more degrees via the temperature difference here. This began at 162, now at 164. A significant amount to go, but a step in the right direction. This is going to delay my mash time because I want to spend at least 30 minutes at 154. This gives us an idea of what the final color is going to be. Really nice. It's going to be a pretty nice brown ale. I anticipated this to be a little bit darker. It may change after the boil and after fermenting and all that fun stuff. But right now I'm making sure that the mash recirculation kind of gets distributed evenly among the grain. Not make like a pocket and also not make like a trench. But yeah, so far so good. I'm going to let it sit here for about 30 minutes, continuously monitoring mash temperatures, and I may slow this down or even stop it if temperature exceeds 156. So these are the hops that I currently have in my stockpile. Now a lot of these are going to be for IPAs. You have very high alpha acid, and you also have a lot of very tropical aromatics. The ones that I have that are pretty neutral are Northern Brewer and Hallertau. And for today's recipe, I'll be using Glacier and Cascade. Now I intend on dry hopping with Cascade towards the end of the fermenting. And this is the yeast that we're using, is American Ale 1056, good house strain. And this one, a lot of very, I guess, busy breweries use this. So if I ever needed to get more, I could. But in a pinch, I definitely had to buy retail. So yeah, this is my stockpile. It's something that I just kind of like, I see something and it's sold at a discount because it's last year's crop. Now the bittering agent for this is still pretty, I guess, good. What diminishes with time is the aromatics. But since I'm not brewing anything with aromatics, these two are going to be good. But these are also pretty recently purchased. I keep them in the freezer, and the freezer should help this stay fresh. And before I use them, and if they're previously been open, I smell them, and if they smell bad, I get rid of them. No question about it. Not worth it. So I always try to use hops that are really good, really fresh, with exception. So I have reconfigured the kettle setup. I no longer have the heat exchanger in place. Now we're going directly from the hot liquor tank, sprinkling water. If I dropped this lid over with the sparge arm. The bottom of the grains have a pump that's going to transfer to the boil kettle. Now here's my favorite part, and this is why I take videos of this. Not for the rooster crowing, but for the first wort entering the kettle. That's the sight to behold. Now we're going to transfer approximately 12.5 gallons to the boil kettle. From that point, we stop transfer and we continue boiling. So we just have to live with the helicopter flying overhead. We live next to a private airport, and unfortunately, this is just what life is for me. So this method we are using is called Splice Sparging. Now, as the boil kettle gets filled with the wort, we're replacing that water volume from the hot liquor tank. Hot liquor tank, mash tun, boil kettle. This is a slow process. You don't want to compact the grain bed, and you want to get all of your juicy wort. You gotta make sure this is closed. If it's not closed, it's gonna spill everything. It's filling up pretty decent. Okay, hang tight. I imagine the rest of this will be transferred over. This will be done. I have to speed this up. Whoa! Condensation in my camera. So then I gotta dial these guys in, right? And it's all back and forth to really speed this guy up. Now the trick is to keep water above the grain bed. One cannot go faster than the other. You want to just have a small little balance. And this grain should be going to 170, barely at 155. So it's maintaining temp. The water going in is about 180. By the time it hits the grains, it cools off, lid open, drops to about 150, 175, give or take. 170 is the ideal that I want. Yeah. So one of the nice features of this tank, the brand new conical fermenter that I have, is that you have the ability to clean this in place, better known as CIP. So what this allows us to do is we just connect the pump, and I have a sight glass with the aeration stone for oxygen, later on for transfer. I put this in place so the cleaning solution, well in this case sanitizing solution, goes through. Now it comes through the pump, flows controlled through the valve. There's a 90-degree elbow, goes way up this hose right here, into this device up here. On top of this, inside the lid is a spray ball, and as it sprays, it spins in a circle and it covers everything that you see. Well, you don't see anything right now, but let me see if I could, no, I don't want to open it. It's going to spray everywhere. So I don't have to like tip the bucket it any direction. I don't got to like hassle with this. I just set it and kind of just keep an eye on it, and then make sure nothing else kind of interferes. But ease of use. Same thing for cleaning. You just hook up the water with not sanitizer, but a soap, hot water soap, and it should do it all by itself. Comes in handy because inside is a cooling coil, and these are really hard to clean with a brush and by hand. So this spray ball is going to take care of that. At this time, the boil has began. I added the hops for the 60-minute hop addition, and what I'm doing now to occupy my time is cleaning out the mash tun. About 24 pounds of malted barley, dry. So this is going to be a lot heavier. And it's going to take me a couple of trips to take this out and put it in here and take it back there to a compost pile. So the next hop addition is 15 minutes prior to flame out. At the same time, I will be adding the coagulant and recirculating through the wort chiller, which I need to break out. And wort chiller is going to be what I use to knock this out from boiling temperature to pitch temperature, which is going to be about 68 degrees, depending on water temperature going in. And then after that, I pitch the yeast, connect the glycol chiller, which is over there. And then that'll be that. So the glycol system is, for the most part, set up. After I mount this up where it needs to be, I'm going to fill it up with the solution and measure out the concentration. That's going to be done after I finish knocking out. So you didn't get to see me adding any of the hops. I've been running around busy getting all this stuff set up. Now I'm working by myself, no one's helping me. So right now we are recirculating hot wort, it's still boiling, through the counterflow chiller back into the whirlpool tangent wort. The reason for that is two purposes. Whirlpooling right now, we're going to be putting the coagulant, which is that stuff you see floating, it's going to coagulate proteins, have them drop out of suspension. And so as it whirlpools, it's going to collect in the center of the kettle. So when we pull off, after a 4-minute rest, all the debris would be away from the pickup tube. And boiling hot work going through the counterflow chiller is for hot sanitation. This was filled with sanitizer solution and capped the ends. What I did is I opened the caps, flushed some fresh water through there, let it drain by gravity. Now we're getting ready to just pump the hot boiling wort through the counterflow chiller into this fermenter right here. There's still a couple things I need to set up, and I'm not gonna be able to film them, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect the water hoses to water in, water out, wort out, hot wort in. So it's counterflow, you know, it's a very efficient heat exchange going on. This fermenter will be pushed over here, and oxygen will be connected to here, and we will measure the flow of oxygen through this sight glass. So now I finally have the glycol chiller set. A couple things I need to do. I don't think I could change the Celsius to Fahrenheit, and on the Inkbird I can change Celsius to Fahrenheit, so I'll be working on this. Now I get to assemble all the covers. It's pretty cool, even the cover is insulated. So this is going to be the source, this is going to be the return, and I'm going to run it, and this is where the final resting place of the fermenter is going to be. It's pretty cool. I dig it. Yeah, so anyways, so like I said, I'm working on this stuff, and it's going to be cool. I think I'm going to be done soon, and I really hope that I'm done soon because I got some stuff I got to take care of, including pitching the yeast. So now the yeast is finally pitched. The glycol system is configured. It's currently chilling down to 0 degrees Celsius, set to be fermenting at 68 degrees, which we're only 2 degrees away, and it dropped from 85 in not even 30 minutes. From 85 pitch temp to 68 ferment temp. So I don't have any quick disconnects, so I had to plumb it. I did have some issues with the clamps that came with it. The clamps were really cheap, plastic handle, and they were leaking. So now there's no leaks here. You gotta check all the joints because this stuff will leak all the coolant out, and then you will have to pay a lot of money for something you could have just fixed from the very beginning. I think I may have gotten about half a quart. So yeah, same thing there, no leaks. No leaks on the inside, despite the inside having the twist hand clamps. Yeah, this cool little neoprene jacket I got. I forgot where I got it from. Amazon or something? It's tandem hose, 3/8 inner diameter times 2. And I just have it ran through a hole in the refrigerator, the door, the tech probe, zip tied in place so it doesn't fall out. So that's that. We now just have to wait and see what comes out of here, but I anticipate that it'll be working just fine. I want to say thank you guys for joining me on today's brew day. Don't forget to subscribe. Next video will be of, I guess, cold crashing and harvesting the yeast. Yeah, because I always harvest the yeast. Awesome.